Hello students, I am Aarti Sharma. Welcome to the third part of this chapter. Now before starting, we have again a set of questions that we need to keep in our mind while reading this chapter. First one, is the narrator as rich as Tricky's mistress? The next one, how does he treat the dog? Why is he tempted to keep Tricky on as a permanent guest? And the last one, why does Mrs. Pumphrey think the dog's recovery is a triumph of surgery? So let's try to find out the answers for these questions. At the surgery, the household dogs surged around him. Around him means they were making a group around him because there was a new member in their surgery. Surgery, as I have already told, it is the name of the place. It is the hospital. Tricky looked down at the noisy pack with dull eyes and when put down lay motionless on the carpet. He was not feeling well, so when he was brought down, and the noisy pack means obviously the dogs, they were making lot of sound when they saw the new member in their surgery. But Tricky did not show any motions. He was sitting or he was lying on the carpet without any movement. The other dogs, after sniffing around him for a few seconds, sniffing means to make a short inhalation through nose. Means sometimes when we see the dogs, they are trying to search something or try to smell with their nose. So they were gathered around that small dog, and when they sniffed around him, decided he was an uninteresting object and ignored him. When they came near to him, he did not show any sort of movement, any sort of encouragement. So they thought that this dog is an uninteresting thing and they left him alone. I made up a bed for him in a warm, loose box next to the one where the other dogs slept. Now a place was made for him also. For 2 days, I kept an eye on him, giving him no food but plenty of water. Now the treatment of the dog started. What did actually James Herriot do with the dog? He just gave him a plenty of water and no food was given to him for 2 days. At the end of the second day, he started to show some interest in his surroundings. Now, before these 2 days, he was laying motionless. He did not show any interest in its surrounding. But at the end of the second day, he started showing some interest. And on the third, he began to whimper when he heard the dogs in the yard. Whimper means to cry, sob softly. Now, when he saw the dogs playing around him, they were enjoying the things, he also started showing some sort of cry. Next, when I opened the door, Tricky trotted out and was immediately engulfed by Joe. Trotted means when he walked out and was immediately engulfed. Engulfed means covered by. To cover by Joe the Greyhound. Greyhound is the breed of dog named Joe, and he covered Tricky and his friends. Means the dogs started playing with the Tricky. After rolling him over and thoroughly inspecting him, the dogs moved off down the garden. Means now this is the new admission here, new dog which is brought in the surgery. So they examined him, and when they came to know that he has come here for some treatment or something, so they went away from there. Tricky followed them, rolling slightly with his surplus fat. As I already told you that he was hugely fat, so he was having problems in moving also. He cannot move properly, so he slightly rolled down and followed those dogs in the garden. Later that day, I was present at feeding time. Now there is a particular time for the feed of these dogs that is taken care of. Now narrator said that I was there when the dogs were fed by the persons kept there. I watched while Tristan sloped the food into the balls. Tristan is the person who is helping him in his surgery. Now when he put the food in the balls, there was the usual headlong rush followed by the sounds of high speed eating. Every dog knew that if he fell behind the others, he was liable to have some competition for the last part of his meals. Means whenever the food was given to these dogs, they were in a hurry to gasp as much as they can, because if they lag behind, they are going to get less of food. You can see in this picture the man standing behind the door. He is the narrator, and these dogs are running towards the food which is going to be given to. Let us move further. When they had finished, now these all dogs, when they finished their food, Tricky took a walk around the shining balls, licking casually inside one or two of them. Now we know that he was not given any food for 2 days, last 2 days. So when these dogs finished their food, he went after them eating, after their eating, and he started licking up the things, the vessels there. Next day, an extra ball was put out for him, and I was pleased to see him jostling his way towards it. Jostling means pushing his way towards it. Now, another separate ball was kept for him, so he moved towards that ball. From then on, his progress was rapid. He had no medical treatment of any kind, but all day he ran about with the dogs, joining in their friendly scrimmages. Scrimmages means rough fights. He was taking lots and lots of exercises with these dogs, running here and there, right, fighting for nothing, no reason. So this was the reason that a little progress in his health was observed by the narrator. He discovered the joys of being bowled over, tramped on, and squashed every few minutes. He became an accepted member of the gang, an unlikely, silky little object among the shaggy crew. Shaggy means long, thick hair, and Tricky was having silky hair. Fighting like a tiger for his share at mealtimes and hunting rats in the old hen house at night, he had never had such a time in his life. Now he was free, he was not overfed by someone, he was taking lots and lots of exercises, and he was now a very accepted member by the gang. Means every dog in that surgery, he accepted him as the member of their gang. In Mrs. Pumphrey's house, he has never experienced such a freedom which was observed by him in this surgery. All the while, Mrs. Pumphrey hovered anxiously in the background, ringing a dozen times a day for the latest bulletins. I dodged the questions about whether his cushions were being turned regularly or his correct coat worn according to the weather. All these types of questions were asked by Mrs. Pumphrey. She used to call the narrator so many times in a day, asking for the latest bulletins. Means what is the next news? How is Tricky feeling? Did he take the lunch? Did he take the dinner? Did he go for a walk? All these questions were asked by Mrs. Pumphrey. But I was able to tell her that the little fellow was out of danger and convalescing rapidly. Convalescing means recovering rapidly. He was recovering very fast. The word reculsing seems to do something to Mrs. Pumpray. She started to bring around fresh eggs, 2 dozen at a time, to build up Tricky's strength. Now, when the narrator said that Tricky is out of danger now and he is recovering, she started bringing all the things which she used to give him when the Tricky was with her. She used to bring fresh eggs, 2 dozen at each time, in the morning and in the evening, to build up his strength. For a happy period, my partners and I had 2 eggs each for breakfast, but when the bottles of wine began to arrive, the real possibilities of the situation began to dawn at the household. Now, Mrs. Pumpray, she used to bring all the things. When eggs started coming, then after that she started bringing the wine also, so that it may give freshness, it may give energy to the. But do you think that the narrator was giving all these things brought by Mrs. Pumpray to the dog? No, it was taken up by the persons working in that surgery and the doctor himself. Now, when she started bringing the wine bottles, what happened? It was to enrich Tricky's blood. Lunch became a ceremonial occasion with 2 glasses of wine before and several during the meals. Now the people in the surgery, they were enjoying all the things that were brought by the mistress of Tricky. We could hardly believe it when the brandy came to put a final edge on Tricky's constitution. Now brandy also started coming in the constitution, means in his resume, in his rule, they were enjoying lots of things, and it was like a ceremonial. They were celebrating some occasion. For a few nights the pine spirit was rolled around, inhaled and reverently drunk, means they enjoyed all the things that were brought by Mrs. Pumpray. They were days of deep content, starting well with the extra egg in the morning, improved and sustained by the midday wine, and finishing luxuriously around the fire with the brandy. It was a temptation to keep Tricky on a permanent guest. Now, why he wanted to keep Tricky as a permanent guest? So that he can enjoy all these things which were brought by Mrs. Pumpray. As we have one question also, though this is the answer, that he wanted to keep the Tricky as a permanent guest. But I knew Mrs. Pumpray was suffering, and after a fortnight felt compelled to phone and tell her that the little dog has recovered and was awaiting collection. Now he cannot enjoy all these things for a long time, so one day after fortnight he said that now Tricky is out of danger. He has completely recovered and he can be taken to. Within minutes, about 30 feet of gleaming black metal drew up outside the surgery. As soon as Mrs. Pumpray received the call that you can collect the dog, within minutes she came with a gleaming black metal drew, means a car, luxurious car. The chauffeurs opened the door and I could just make out the figure of Mrs. Pumpray, almost lost in the interior. Now, chauffeur means a person who is the driver of the car. Now he opened the door and Mrs. Pumpray, she came out of the door. Oh, Mr. Harriet, do tell me the truth. Is he really better? Now she is asking that whether the dog is really better. Did you tell me the truth or you are just joking? She could not believe her ears when she received the call. Yes, he is fine. There is no need for you to get out of the car. I'll go and fetch him. Fetch him means he will bring him. So the narrator told her that no need to worry. I'm going to bring the dog and he is absolutely fine. I walked through the house into the garden, a mass of dogs was hurtling around and round the lawn, and in their midst, ear flapping, tail waving, was the little golden figure of Tricky. In these 2 weeks, he had been transformed into a lithe, hard muscled animal. He was keeping up well with the pack, stretching out in great bounds, his chest almost brushing the ground. Now, this was the condition of Tricky after 2 weeks. He has recovered from his illness and he has become now hard muscled animal. He was totally fit and fine. I carried him back along the passage to the front of the house. I, the narrator, he took the dog towards the front gate of the house. The chauffeur was still holding the car door open, and when Tricky saw his, now as you can see in the picture, when the chauffeur is still holding the door and Mrs. Pumphrey is sitting in the car. When Tricky saw his mistress, he took off from my arms in a tremendous leap and sailed into Mrs. Pumphrey's lap. He just did not look here and there, and he went with a force and he went into the lap of Mrs. Pumphrey. She gave a startled "oh!" and then had to defend herself as he swarmed over her, licking her face and barking. Means this is the way the dog was showing his love towards his mistress. After so long he has seen her, after 14 days, 15 days he has seen her, and he was very happy and he was showing his love for the mistress. During the excitement, I helped the chauffeur to bring out the beds, toys, cushions, coats and balls, whatever was given by Mrs. Pumphrey to take care of the dog during these days, during this fortnight time, none of which has been used. The doctor did not use anything what was given by Mrs. Pumphrey. In fact, it was unused. As the car moved away, Mrs. Pumphrey leaned out of the window. Tears shone in her eyes. Her lips trembled. Means the lips were shivering. "Oh, Mr. Harriet," she cried, "how can I ever thank you? This is a triumph of surgery." Means she was thankful for whatever the narrator has done, and she says that this is the triumph of surgery, that you made my dog well. He has recovered from his illness. He is no longer a fatty dog. He is now muscle, and this shows that she was very happy, and she says to Mr. Mr. Harriet, that this is the triumph of surgery. Now I hope you must have got the answers for these questions. Is the narrator as rich as Tricky's mistress? It's absolutely no, because he did not have so much of things that were provided by Mrs. Pumphrey to the dogs. He was just a normal surgeon. How does he treat the dog? Did he give any treatment? No, he did not give any treatment, but lots and lots of water and the exercise. Why is he tempted to keep Tricky on as a permanent guest? I have already discussed while discussing that he wanted to enjoy all the things which were brought or which were sent by Mrs. Pumphrey to the surgery. The last one, why does Mrs. Pumphrey think the dog's recovery is a triumph of surgery? She says so because she wanted to express her gratitude. She was very happy that Tricky has recovered. Now he has become hard muscle. So she just wanted to express her happiness and gratitude towards the doctor. That is the reason she says that it is a triumph of surgery. So in the next video we are going to do the question answer.